Hi, I'm Lara Bennett, and you're listening to Highway Butterfly, the stories of Neal Casal. Neal was a gifted singer, songwriter, musician, and friend to many. He released 14 albums as a solo artist and collaborated on countless projects with other musicians. After his passing in 2019, his friends and family created the Neal Casal Music Foundation to provide instruments and music lessons to students in New York and New Jersey, and to support organizations that offer musicians mental health care. One of the featured projects of the newly formed foundation is the tribute album Highway Butterfly, The Songs of Neal Casal, a sprawling 41-song collection bringing together a galaxy of rock and roots luminaries. We've asked the contributing musicians to share their memories of Neal and their stories of making the record. Highway Butterfly, The Songs of Neal Casal is out now. Purchase the album and learn more at nealcasalmusicfoundation.org. Hi, Rachel. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Rachel, we're here today to talk about Neal Casal. Can you tell us how you first met Neal?
I met Neal back in 2006. It was kind of an interesting situation. I was putting a show together, a benefit show, and for charity. And I kind of came to Neal through Ryan Adams. Neal didn't end up doing the show. It was too crazy. He was living in New York at the time, but that's how we kind of made our first connection. And then just like a month later, he was in LA and came up to me at a club and was like, "Hey, you're Rachel." And that was that. We ran into each other like a night later at one of Jonathan Wilson's little canyon jams, and he took this really great picture of me that night, and that's kind of how we started really talking after that. He sent it to me, and that picture ended up in this really great show that he did in Japan, which was nuts. Yeah, it was this black and white photo. It was really still one of my favorites.
That's amazing. Do you have a copy of it?
Not a hard copy. The one that he printed for that show was massive. It was like, I think it was like life size. It was really big. So he didn't even bring it home. But yeah, I have the digital copy.
That is really cool. And then you became friends from there?
Yes. Yeah. We stayed in touch, and used to hang out all the time. And that was, 2007 at that point. And yeah, used to come out, and we used to take trips out to Joshua Tree, which is where I live now, because I was obsessed with it, and he was too. And jump up and play with the house band at Pappy's, which I later became a part of. So yeah, it was special. It was really cool.
That's amazing. I wanted to go back to you reaching out to him at the tribute concert. So you had heard him play with Ryan Adams and the Cardinals. Were you familiar with his solo work at that point, or when did you hear that?
That's how I became familiar with his solo work, was when we had that conversation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I started checking out his music, and, obviously he's such a beautiful songwriter. It was really something great to discover.
Right. So Rachel, you covered So Far Astray, which was from Neal's 2009 album, Roots and Wings. So yes. I wanted to take a pause and listen to it. Here we go.
You always been a precious little doll. I won't be there to break your heart as fall. You're saying that you wanna go home, so let me help you on with your code, but you don't know. But it's time to make up your mind.
That is one of my favorite songs on that album. Why did you choose to cover it?
Oh, I've always loved that song. I remember specifically when Neal showed me that record after he had recorded most of it and was in town with Ryan Adams for a show, or actually I think he was on tour, and we were in Claremont, I believe, and we sat in the car and listened to that whole record, and that song really stuck out to me. It was just,
Wow.
It was kind of upbeat and light with a heavy subject line. So
Typical.
a lot of Neal songs. I mean, some of them are slow with a heavy subject line. That one was kind of lighter, and I really liked it a lot.
It's a great one. And you actually sing on the album Roots and Wings, isn't that right?
Yes, on The Cold and the Darkness. And it was just a little bit of singing, but it meant the world to me. Neal had recorded most of that in New York. And he came back to LA because he wanted, his East Coast and West Coast friends on that record. So he came back to LA and recorded it in my friend Kenny Woods and Josh Schwartz's old studio. And I know the Rademakers and Richard Gowan and myself all had a little piece. I think some others too.
That's an amazing song as well. And another favorite. It's one of my favorite albums. They're all kind of favorites, but Tim Heidecker's version is pretty mind-blowing on the tribute album.
Yeah, I love that he did that.
And tonight I'll burn a candle for another, and I'll lean in for the picture. I wish that you could see me as I see myself. Could I be myself with you? When the cold and the darkness are too much to bear, you've seen traces, but nothing's there. You've been trying as hard as you can to find the answers to your prayers.
Yeah,
really cool.
just kind of wild that happened and worked out.
Yeah.
Well, so let's take a pause and listen to a clip of your version of Astray.
Okay.
To just move on, you try to run. You wonder if you're the only one. You wonder how you went so far astray. Our world is changing, summer's moving on. A lifetime waiting now, it won't be long. I never meant to do you no harm. Should I turn back or should I go on? I just don't know. But it's time to make up my mind. Oh, the night is gone, the dawn has come. You wonder if you can face the sun. You wonder why your love is so far away. To just move on, you crawl, you run. You wonder if you're the only one. You wonder how you went so far astray.
Amazing. I just love this interpretation of that cool beat. So what can you tell us about recording that version at Plier Studio?
That was it was really, really magical. It was crazy because they had been recording and we had talked about a date, and then of course COVID really hit hard and everything kind of came to a halt. And I think we were the first ones back in the studio when we started emerging again, and they started getting all that stuff going again. Tim and I brought our dogs out to this, the studio, and got a hotel room out there, and it was really great. We had such a cool crew with us. I really wanted, all my friends to be, as much of a part of it as they could. And so Farmer Dave and Lauren and Adam McDougall. And then it was really cool. Ted Russell Camp and Jamie Douglas, who is the rhythm section for Shooter Jennings. Those guys came and were the rhythm section for us, which was super great. And even John Graboff, who wasn't there for the recording, put some, Graboff touches on it after that. So, and
Yeah,
that
I
studio
know
is
that he.
magical. It's so cool.
It is. It's a pretty magical place, and I know John Graboff really, really loves your version, and he kind of said something like it was his, it fit his vision for that song that he had a while back, of it being almost like a Ronette sort of kind of a 1950s feel to it. And yeah, it's really different, and it's just really unique, and you did a great job making it your own.
Thank you. I love that John said that. That means so much to me. I love
So
John.
speaking of,
Oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, I had met John back when Neal was playing with Ryan, and it was really, John and I got along really well, and we'd always hang out and talk after the shows and go get drinks and stuff. And it was super cool that Neal brought him on my record that he produced a while back. I mean, John was living in New York at the time, but he agreed to play on it, and Neal sent him the tracks, and that just, at my core, I'm just a nerdy fan, so it meant the world to me.
I didn't realize that he was on record, and that was actually what I was going to bring up, was your solo album, Indian Summer, that Neal produced. And I know that he worked really closely with you on that. So tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah. That there was no real big plans to make that record. It kind of just came about because of a couple different conversations and things that didn't happen. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait, I guess I'm making this record. I talked to Neal about it right from the get-go, and he said, yeah, I'm touring and traveling, because he was playing with CRB at the time. And he's like, but, we'll figure it out. I'll make the time. I'll, whenever I'm in LA. And so we did that, and we ended up working with Rob Campanella, and who I love so much. And his studio is also really fun, kind of a homey vibe, because it's in his home. And yeah, Neal, it ended up turning into a producer role. I don't know if that's what he was planning. I think he was planning on just playing on it, but he kind of, took control, which I totally love and appreciate. And he started, kind of mapping out all the songs, and Richard Gowan also played on that, and Rob Douglas. And it was just really special. He played guitar on it. He sang on it. He even took the photos for the cover.
That's really special.
Yeah.
And he also played some guitar on your most recent album that you released last year with Starlight Cleaning Co.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that guitar line?
Yeah, he played on, we had a couple songs, and we kept thinking that they would just be perfect with Neal's guitar on them. The main one is a song called The Race, and we sent him the tracks, and he actually pulled off, I think he was on tour with Circles Around the Sun, and he had a day off in, I believe, Pennsylvania somewhere, and went into his studio and spent the day recording guitar. I mean, are you kidding me? He was the best, truly.
Yeah, that is so awesome. And that record is awesome. And I think we can probably maybe listen to a clip of that song,
You.
The Race.
Weight of stairs can pull you down. They'll make you leave this lonely town. Don't go back. Don't go back. Always for love. Always for love. Leave me there, holding my hand. A song rings out, the race is on. The weight of stairs will pull you down. So dust yourself off now you're free. Head crowned with serenity. Moving on in the name of love. Moving on in the name.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Great record. Congrats on releasing that, by the way.
Thank you.
I want to know a little bit more about like your friendship and like some of these Joshua Tree trips. And I'm sure you have dozens of stories. Does anything come to mind in particular?
There's so many stories. Gosh, there's so many. I mean, one of my favorite Neal stories that I like to tell, and I should have prepared myself and like had a few lined up, but the one that always comes to me and makes me smile is when we were making that record, and Andy Dick showed up off the street. Did I ever tell you that one?
Yeah, I think I remember hearing this now, but you need to tell it again.
He used to tell it so much better than I could ever tell it. But yeah, we were in the middle of a session and we had all agreed on the fact that we wouldn't bring friends this day because we were going to do guitar overdubs and stuff. So no friends. We were just sitting there. Rob's studio is in the basement of his home. I guess it's kind of a basement or a second floor, but it's under, it's under the main level. And we were sitting there and Neal was in the middle of a solo. And all of a sudden, Andy Dick comes down with a gigantic 7-Eleven massive plastic cup filled with some sort of cocktails. And he was staggering back and forth. And he just stood there in the hallway and we, Neal just kept playing. He didn't stop playing and the part was over. And then when he stopped, we were just looking around the room like, didn't we say no friends? Like, who brought Andy Dick in today? And apparently he had wandered in off the street because it is a residential neighborhood. And he was probably partying or something at somebody's house the night before. And I don't know, woke up and just started walking down the street. He let himself into the house. He went into the kitchen and made a cocktail. We found the orange juice and vodka on the counter later.
Wow.
And just walked down the stairs. And when we asked him how, he got there, he said, I just followed the music.
Oh, wow.
It took us a long time to get him out of there that day too. It was crazy.
How did you get him out of
Rob had to get him in a cab and literally put him in the cab. Neal actually took a bunch of pictures. We were like, taking pictures through the window and out the door when we finally got him out of there. And there's some funny black and white shots of that. I'll have to share with you sometime.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great story. And like so unbelievable. And just what are the odds of it being Andy Dick and
I
you
know.
recording it?
It's not
He's
really
lucky that
it's not really a
there
Neal
happened to be
story.
like it's an Andy Dick story.
Andy Dick story.
But
But
there happened to be like vodka in the cupboard. He could have easily walked into a house with no liquor.
or with kids, or who knows? It was just
or-
it was the weirdest, funniest thing that we laughed about forever after that.
Well,
But yeah,
I guess that's high praise. I drew Andy Dick in off the street.
Yeah. Yeah, but Neal and I had a lot of fun adventures. We we used to come to the desert a lot whenever when he was still living in New York, but would come into town, go to Pappy's, and I know there was this guy named Ted Quinn who lives out here, and he is it still going? It seems like it paused for a second.
Yeah, I think you broke up for just a second after you said Ted's name.
Okay. Yeah. So Ted, who lives out here in Joshua Tree, is an amazing songwriter, and I knew him separately from Neal. And Neal had covered some of his songs, and he just did these beautiful covers, and they had never met before. So one of those Sunday night times, Ted was in town, and I told him I was going to be bringing Neal, and the two of them got to meet and play a little music, and it was really special.
That is so cool. How did
he also introduced me? Well, introduced me to Victoria Williams.
Wow,
who I didn't.
Is that
I mean, I knew her. I met her here, but I didn't know what she was all about. He found out I was hanging out with her, and he goes, "Do you even know like anything about her?" And I said, "No." She's just my kooky desert friend out here. I love her. I stay at her house. And he's like, oh man. He went to Amoeba, and we met up later that day at a restaurant, and he brought me an Amoeba bag with a bunch of Victoria Williams records. It's kind of like, oh crap. I had no idea.
I'm really curious as to how Neal heard Ted's music before meeting him. Do you know?
What's that?
Do you know how Neal heard Ted's music before meeting him?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
We'll have to ask him.
You'll have to ask him.
That's really interesting.
I'm not sure how he discovered it, but he sent me, the Ted song and then his cover, and he's like, "Do you know this guy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do."
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember looking I was looking at the back of that. There's a 7-inch that was released. I think either right before I Wish to Reminisce, and it's You Don't See Me Crying on is the A side, and the B side is Tar Beach, which was written by Ted. And I knew Ted, and I was looking. I was like, Ted Quinn, that can't be my Ted Quinn, and of course it was, because the desert is very small, and so is California and the world. But yeah, it's a beautiful song, and Neal definitely did it justice.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. So speaking of Victoria Williams, you organized a beautiful tribute concert for Neal, and Victoria sang, and it was like the West Coast companion to the East Coast memorial. And first of all, huge props for pulling that off in such a beautiful way that really honored him. What was that like, and how did you do it? Because I'm sure it was really challenging at the time.
It actually was therapeutic for me at the time, because I was, pretty messed up over losing Neal, and it gave me something positive to kind of focus on. You know, he wrote in the letter that he wanted a party, and I knew they were throwing him one in New York. And so I knew a lot of people weren't able to go to that one, you know, on the West Coast. And he had his whole West Coast crew of friends too. So I wanted to do something where, you know, all those people were involved and do something special over here for him.
Yeah, well, you really did something amazing. So congrats on that. I wasn't there, but I listened to the recording, and yeah, it's really, you know, great to hear all those friends honoring him. And I'm sure it was really meaningful for everyone involved.
Yeah, it was really special, and having Dawn there, you know, and like having Jonathan Wilson and Jonathan Rice and Andy, you know, it just, there was just so many little parts of it that came together kind of naturally. You know, I just put calls out, and everybody kind of, because I was in the desert, you know, everybody was kind of having their rehearsals and doing everything, and it really kind of came together on its own the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, and it makes sense that, you know, Neal had a bicoastal life, and, you know, he collaborated with so many people on both coasts. So it makes sense to, you know, get the people on the West Coast to be able to be involved as well. I'm sure they really enjoyed that. So last time we talked, you shared a little secret story about one of your tattoos. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
My Neal tattoo?
I think so.
You told me.
I don't know if you want to revisit it. It's like,
so I got a tattoo for Neal, and it was a tattoo that he wanted to get. Neal, as I'm sure a lot of us know, has had a massive fear of commitment. And he wanted to get an old tattoo covered up with a scarlet begonia. He went to an old friend of mine who is a tattoo artist, and I sat there with him, and she had drawn it up, and she was like, you know, prepping his, I think it was on his arm or his back. I don't remember. But she was prepping everything, and, you know, had it ready to go. The gun's buzzing, like, and he just gently asked, "So can I go surfing after this?" And she was like, "No, not for a little while." And he goes, "Okay, well, maybe I shouldn't do this right now." And I was like, "Oh man, Bill." So I actually sat in that chair and got my own tattoo, and then which I'd been wanting, and it had already been started, so it wasn't a big deal. But then a while later, probably almost 10 years later, he went out to this guy Jeremy in the Bay Area, wanting the same tattoo and getting it drawn up and prepared, and then canceled that appointment too. So I thought I wanted to get something for Neal, and I figured that's the thing to get. I'll make the commitment he couldn't make. So I got that one with the little NC on it.
That's really cool. That's great. It's like I need to think about it for another 10 years, and I'm still not sure about it. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh well, Rachel, thank you so much for sharing all these amazing stories. Is there anything else about Neal that you want to remember, share with the world?
Oh, he is just, you know, the most beautiful soul and amazing, talented songwriter. And I felt really lucky to, you know, just be in his presence. He was, you know, a lot of different things to me. He was a close friend, and he was a mentor, and, you know, we had a lot of love for each other, and I will hold him close to my heart forever.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Ah!
I think that was great.
This makes me so nervous.
I know. I'm sorry. It had been it's been a couple months since I did an interview. So I'm sorry if it was like kind of robotic at first, but I think it was great.
Oh,
You
no.
have, great memories. Lots of laughs, which is nice.
Yeah. I'm a smiler when I'm nervous and when I'm happy. I hope.
Well,
Yeah. Well, I better get back into work. My boss is texting me. I'm like, ah.
okay. Well, thank you. And
Thank you.
yeah, I'll let Michelle know we're done. And yeah, I hope to see you at the bar soon.
Yeah, we'll be open soon, and we should have a drink or something one of these days.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm in a band now.
You are?
Called, Daytime Moon. They're like
That's the name of your band, Daytime Moon?
Yeah.
Awesome.
They've been around for like 10 years. They're like all from here. And so I've been like playing with them. So I'm trying to think like
who's in the band?
Let's see. A guy named Daniel Havis, Kevin Patterson, and Brent Simpson.
I probably would know if I saw them.
Yeah. I was talking to Brent last night, and I was talking about I was talking to you today, and he's like, I don't know her. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure he knows everyone. But we're playing Giant Rock Meeting Room the day after Trevor plays. So
when's
that is, let's see, Trevor's playing I think the 26th, and I'm playing the 27th. So maybe I'll see you at either of those.
Okay, yeah. That's awesome. Very
I'll
cool.
text you closer to the date.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be fun to hang out.
It would be great to hang out. Yeah,
cool.
For sure.
All right, well, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. And thanks,
soon.
Michelle. I know you're on a call, but bye.
Yeah, she'll watch later. Bye.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye.